Hey folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another farm, family, business, and the Dear Lord segments, podcast version of the channel here. Guys, first and foremost, I want to reach out or say to everybody, hopefully everybody has had a great Thanksgiving. We are a little bit behind here on the video portion of some things because November is just kind of busy. You know, I've got guests in camp. It's a busy part of the booking habitat season, and I'm hoping to be able to cure some of those issues with as far as the lag of not having a set schedule for videos coming here very soon. We're going to talk about that. But welcome back. Hope everybody had a good holiday. Let's dive right into this one. We got some stuff to cover here, guys, and we've still got some good time left here. Maybe a lot of folks consider this maybe the best time of the year to still be in the woods. So let's dive into this one, guys. The farm itself had a really good season. I was blessed enough to harvest a 4.5-year-old buck here on the farm with my gun during the Kentucky Modern Gun season. Had a really good, a different but a really good early season. So let's start there. The farm is it's never done, right? But the farm is probably creeping up on that 90% done. I'm going into some of the maintenance stuff that I have that laundry list of stuff to do, right? This year was different. There was some of our target bucks. We were successful on target bucks. Myself, a friend of mine, and one of my leases killed a really good buck last year, 4.5-year-old buck. My neighbor that we kind of manage things together, keep an eye on things together. He harvested a 5.5-year-old buck. I shot a 5.5-year-old buck last year. So there was some of that older age class bucks that were taken down last year, taken out, I guess you could say, right? And so we had a couple bucks this year that were in that 5.5-year-old area. And now looking back, I wish I would have maybe not shot the 4.5-year-old that I did, because I'm just after that oldest buck in the neighborhood, and he was kind of, I knew I set some stuff up actually on the farm for him this year, and I knew I was going to try to have to get him harvested early, and I didn't. He started roaming this year a little bit sooner than he had in the past. Make a long story short, I now know where he has gone. He leaves here in about mid-October and then randomly visits me, and now I know where he was. So I've got a lease and another lease picked up, and that's where that deer has been. So make a long story short, it was kind of I don't want to call it an awkward, but it was kind of a lower number of that higher age class season. Which I think is going to work out for us in the long run. And the reason I say that is, guys, this year allowed me to harvest or take out some of those bucks that scoring is about the farthest thing from my mind anymore. We start focusing on those older age class bucks and try to harvest those older bucks, the oldest bucks in the neighborhood. But at some point, you start looking at like, okay, is this 4.5, 5.5-year-old buck ever going to blow up into anything that attaches the score to the age, right? And this year we were blessed enough to be able to poke a hole in some of those 4.5 or 5.5-year-old bucks in the neighborhood that probably would have never been a lot. And then on the other hand, there was two really nice 4.5-year-old, big 4.5-year-old, and a 5.5-year-old buck that were harvested. So good for the folks that harvested that buck, or those bucks. So it's just been kind of one of those years, right? What's going to settle back in? Where are we going to be next year? Did we make enough holes in kind of the management deer that we had, right? To allow some of I've got a couple really nice 4.5-year-old, the 5.5-year-old that I was actually, trying to harvest early. He showed back up again, so he's just sneaky. And so I think the door now is open to to house some of these quality young bucks to give them a chance to see what they really got, right? So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of where we're at with the herd. The farm itself, I've got a mulch trail to do, one section of a mulch trail. I have to remulch my transition, my entire grid, if you will, this year. I've got some dough bedding. I've got another kind of a large cedar extraction dough bedding thing that I'm going to be doing this year, improvement. So the farm itself is kind of in that carrying itself portion right now, right? And I think probably a lot of folks can relate to that. I do have a lot of clients around the country that are in that same boat, right? And what I mean by that is this time of the year, not only is the phone ringing with some new clients and some new properties, but also the phone's ringing on some clients that I've already, helped. And it's like, okay, I've got this done, I've got that done. Now what do we do as a maintenance, right? So, the postseason scouting, guys, it's a separate video we're going to go deeper into on its own video on the normal part of the channel. But the postseason scouting is something that I just really, really encourage folks to take advantage of. It can help you so much. It's just another piece of the puzzle, right? I think a lot of folks do is they get caught in this, okay, it was a bad year, and they start placing the blame in so many places, and then go into next year just hoping that something luck takes over, and you by that happenstance, kind of that buck trips in through your neighborhood. And I mean that is a strategy to hunt, but that's not my strategy. I'm taking notes, mental notes, all the way through the season. I'm taking the notes of what I didn't get done last habitat season. Like I said, then I'm going into season while I'm in the stand, with myself and some guests that I have on my farms. And I'm kind of making a list, right? And then I'm implementing those with the final detail is postseason scouting. So we're going to touch on something here real quick, guys. So the postseason scouting is something that I just tie all that together, and then what to focus on or what else to do going forward, right? Going into maybe it prioritizes your list to do a little bit, or it really make sure that you've got some stuff that's probably a priority over some other stuff. So what we're going to touch on, guys, with that is I see a lot of folks. Right now is the habitat season, right? There's a lot of, folks calling consultants or trying to get help going in and scouting. And I encourage you to really err on the side of caution with that, okay? Right now, there's a lot of things that have changed in the whitetail woods, like the farm or our community here, right? There's been some bucks slotted out. There's been some new bucks slot in. But most parts of the country, you're coming off a very high pressured situation. So is Kentucky as high pressured as Michigan or Wisconsin? Absolutely not. But it's kind of all relative to the region, right? So it's high pressure, right? Don't look at the pressure spectrum as a numbers thing as far as how many deer were harvested. Look at a pressure spectrum about how many deer or how many people were in the woods via your community, right? Because 10 miles down the road, maybe there isn't as much hunters. Maybe there's larger land tracts. Maybe there's a section of ground or a bunch of ground that don't allow hunting. Stuff like that can really influence that. And the reason I touch on that, guys, is you have to kind of know when to go in and start looking at late season or postseason scouting. I see a lot now. Maybe I'm a little more cautious on this than some folks are around the country, but I come from the pinnacle of high pressure, is where I was born and raised, right? And where I spent a lot of my hunting career, as far as my family hunting, right? And my hunting myself, family hunting, and I've just seen it so often now tied over or rolled over into my clients. If you have a buck that's on that property that's on edge right now because of pressure, and you go in there and start looking for places to do habitat improvements and hiring a consultant and thinking that you need to be in the woods in December and November, December, and January and get in there and get all this stuff done, guys. I see a lot of deer that get bumped. That final piece of the puzzle get bumped, and they never return. Right? So just be patient. I hear this all the time from folks around the country. Is I can't have you here any later than January. Well, that'd be great, but you need to book my services then 2 years in advance if you want to get on the books. But on the other hand, I'm not going to go to Illinois, or let's just start here. I'm not going to go to Michigan or Wisconsin in January or February to do a habitat consultant. And if you have somebody that's doing that, kind of think about what you're getting yourself into, because the weather's usually horrible. Are you seeing the ground? Are you able to read correct habitat? Are you really able to enjoy that service? And I'm going to tell you the answer to that 99.9% of the time is no. So my month up in the north is April. It used to be March. Now it's April just because of that. So I still encourage my folks to get out on your properties and look at your initial postseason scouting. And then you can relay that information to me or show me pictures or whatever. But when I design a property, guys, I don't physically need to see that in season or 5 days after the season tracks, because a lot of what I'm doing is designing from 50% of your build is what's going on around you. The contour, the edge, all of this stuff ties into it. And that postseason have to be there mentality is just a fraction. But like I said, take into consideration, if you're in an area, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, Gaylord, Michigan, mid-Michigan, where I'm originally from, lots of parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, you've got 2 feet of snow on the ground right now. You are going to do yourself a disservice, because if you go out there right now, one, you're putting a lot of pressure on stressed deer that don't need to be bumped around and ran around the woods. You're probably, if you're a shed hunter, you're probably going to ruin your shed hunting season, because they're going to go elsewhere and drop them antlers. There's just so many things. And then the biggest part of that is kind of on the closer here as far as my rant, right? The closer of that is, guys, is that sign that you're seeing, if it's winter related, heavy condition related, and it's all strictly food related, it can throw you a lot of miscues. I see it time and time again, that folks are building a property off from that food influenced movement, or when deer, bucks in general are all bachelor grouped up or something like that. It's not the information that you need to really have to build that property. So I started out by telling you, make sure that you're seeing it, right? Make sure that you're getting out at the right time before myself or another consultant or whatever the case is, or friends or whatever. Make sure you get that information so you have it. But if you are hiring a consultant, I'm trying to bust this myth out there of you have to be out there and doing all this tree work and on the property in January, let's say, or December or January, because there's a lot to be said for you're probably doing your farm more disservice than you're doing it a service. So let that one, we'll continue on, but let that one sink in. We're going to go into greater details on that situation with some more videos, more direct videos coming up, but I just wanted to share that with you. So to close out the farm topic, we've got a couple of weeks left here, more than a couple of weeks left, I guess over a month here left in season. We've got our muzzleloader hunt coming up. We're going to have, try to target those last few older bucks with the muzzleloader. And the weather's been cold. A lot of parts of the country are seeing cold weather. And then after it's done, then of course I'm going to go out and get that information and look at where things are on the farm and what was going on. And the regeneration of some stuff I did last year, how the browse looks, stuff like that. And then we're between client trips, we're going to go into the habitat season. So that's kind of where we are with the farm and the hunting and where we're at as an overview. the family part of it, guys. Let's just start here. I know a lot of you, and I surely appreciate that. A lot of you have followed along with my son's journey through the military, basic training. He's out in Missouri there at Fort Leonard Wood, and it was kind of a good start, then a rough right after the start of basic. Had a wrist injury, and it was touch and go for a while. And the good Lord, put his hand over that situation, put his hand on his hand, I guess, you could say, and it got us through it. And boy, I tell you, it's been a humbling experience. Without getting real sappy dad-ish on you here, it's been a very humbling experience. And boy, I tell you, I've always had a deep gratitude for service members. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfather was actually in the Michigan National Guard, like my son is. And my other grandfather was in the airborne, and jumped out of planes back in wartime. And it's been a huge part of our family. We got a lot of brother-in-laws that were in, cousins, great friends, and I've just had this big respect. But I tell you, it's different when it's one of your own, as far as your kids, right? So I've learned a lot. I'm looking forward to getting him home. He's actually going to be on leave, vacation here, in the middle of December through the 1st of January. So looking forward to seeing him and my daughter doing our Christmas thing, if you will. And then he graduates basic in the middle of February. He's done with basic, but he graduates basic training as a whole and AIT out there in February. So there's been some hurdles there. There's been some hurdles, some ups and downs. We got through it, and as far as we know, everything's great there. My daughter, she's teaching and helping with with some of the emails and answering some messages and stuff like that with me, and think the world of her. And it's been a couple of years since we've had time to enjoy some hunting together, and I'm really hoping that this following year, whether it's here or whether I got to go get them and go somewhere else, right? I'm really hoping that we get back in the woods with each other, because anymore, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I love the farm. I love the hunting aspect of it myself, but the older I get, I really don't care if I ever harvest another buck. I just want the family and friends involved, and that's where my mind is at right now, and making it better to. So one of the things with the farm and family, I have really good friends from up north, from Michigan, and the 17-year-old young man was able to harvest his first buck with his bow. He killed some great deer with his gun. Been really selective with his bow, and he's been down here a couple of times, passed up some bucks probably a lot of folks around the country wouldn't have, and it was paid off. He shot a really nice buck with his bow, and so we got that accomplished. And seeing that, his dad's a really good friend of mine. Look at him as a brother, and from up north, and I tell you, seeing the smile and the hugs from that kid, that was payoff. Like we told him that he was thanking us, and we both told him, right? That's you don't have to thank us anymore. That was the payoff that we needed, and it's all about getting that next generation involved, right? Because we all know hunter numbers are down, and I think there's just a lot of reasons for why that is. But there's so much stuff tied into that we'll go into in maybe other videos, but really taking the time to look deeper than yourself, right? I just actually took one of my leases, the landowners that I lease it from, their young ones, they have 4 daughters, and the 2 of them are old enough to start maybe trying to hunt. And so that's where the crossbow thing comes in, and got them shooting the crossbow and understanding a little bit of safety, and then put them with their dad last night in a blind, and and believe it or not, she could have shot a spike or a 3-point for her first buck, and she elected not to, right? One of the daughters. So, but they loved it. And so it's stuff like that to me, guys, that I'm focusing on. And then it's all the other stuff will fall into place, but maybe that's for you, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I encourage you to just look into that. Maybe be a mentor. Maybe you only do it once a year with the same person year after year after year. Maybe you do it with multiple people, whatever that case is. But we need them numbers, and we need that education right, not just numbers. We don't just need numbers. We need educated numbers. So what I mean by that is there's just so much focus right now about, getting, let's just say, kids out in the woods, and their eyes are on you. So, oh man, they're just tied on to us, right? And they're looking at everything we're doing. So if we're out there cheating the law, not wearing orange, not wearing safety harnesses and tree stands, there's just step back and teach the groundwork, and then let them start their own hunting careers or adventures, right? But just try to go above and beyond to start implementing that knowledge correctly, because what I see, sadly, is that's not being taught. Gun safety is not being taught. Scent control, why you hunt certain stands, why we just don't lock ourselves in a box blind no matter what the wind is. That was all stuff. I won't go into great detail, but I really believe, guys, that's a lot of reason. I think that you're seeing kind of the limelight being taken off from a youth-only early season, because the statistics show, and I've done my research on that, and I followed along with it because I had a lot of people asking me. I think that the statistics really show that having these kids and making it easy for them didn't hook them, right? Because when the ease was done and they weren't able to sit in just a nice box blind with blue jeans on, no orange, and kind of breaking the law, if you will, and when they had to actually start hunting in the real world, they quit. So let's blame ourselves for that a little bit instead of just the law of the states. So anybody from Michigan probably knows where I'm going with that, with youth hunts. But I'm a pro youth hunt guy, but there's so much of that just the pros and the cons. We could have our own separate video. Maybe we will do a video on that just stacks up. So I just encourage, let's just start with the fundamentals. It's no different than coaching a baseball team. Your son or daughter's baseball or softball team or soccer team or whatever it is that you're into, football team, and really kind of laying that good foundation, that groundwork down, and then helping them advance. Hope that makes sense, right? So we'll end at that one. The business, let's go there, guys. The business itself is good. It's been a tricky year. I think a lot of it has to do with the election year, right? Phone is ringing. Folks are booking stuff. We still have spots available for 2025. Some of the how is this year going to fold out with the business, as far as where I'm going to be in the country and how long, I think has a lot to do with some of the stuff that I have implemented that we've got coming. I'll put a little hint out there for you guys. I'm going to be possibly looking into doing some turnkey purchasing, building, selling turnkey stuff with some folks, and I think in the right places around the country. So that's coming, and like I said, I won't go into great detail with that because there's a bunch of pieces of that puzzle that I'm still working out. So I'm looking at. So let's I just got a list here. Let's just go through the list. So one of the things is, guys, is our Patreon account. I've had some, and I asked for this. I had some folks reach out. The Patreon account is kind of just there right now, right? And the reason for that is I had some positive, I had some negative come in off from that. But even the folks that had the positive outlook on the patron account, and the reason, if you're just watching this, the reason for the patron account is a personalized separate deal where there's going to be some videos on there that you weren't going to see here, just because it's more of a specific topic or videos of the month or something like that, more of a training tool. Everything here that you're watching is free. Everything there is free and a charge for stuff, right? So the other part of the business, so I want to touch on this with you real quick. We've got, I was hoping to have the training camp videos, guys, the series released in October, and I mentioned to everyone that it would be. Had some major hiccups with my editing. I got more than halfway done with it, and I went back and started reviewing obviously a bunch of it. There was a bunch of edits that got dropped. There was a bunch of voiceover. My wireless mics crapped out, if you will. I had a problem with a publisher with some editing on the habitat book that's going to be involved in all of that, and it's just, I've got one, I want it to be right with the folks that are, again, paying for a service that's something different than my normal consulting service at your property, and I want it to be right. So I want that perfect, and we'll tweak it and add to it as we go over the years, but I want it to be good for you guys, and it just wasn't right. So I said, I'm not releasing it until it's right. Very well could have just put it out there. I had a lot of clients reaching out. People are like, okay, I'm ready to pay for this. Where is it? And it's just not done yet. So I've actually got a meeting today about that. Hopefully we're working through this, and I think it's the wait will be well worth the wait. Let's just say that. So keep looking for that. Hopefully going into this time of the year, going into the habitat season, I think it'll be just as good, or if not better timing than it was before. So the Dear Lord part of this segment, guys, I always like to do this podcast version. The Dear Lord piece of this really, I think, grows on me more and more and more every time I do this. And I want to touch on something this week with you. I'm a huge college football fan, always have been. Played sports my entire life, on the court and on the fields. And I'm going to share something with you that I think all of us can benefit from. This week was rivalry week, if you want to label it, the Iron Bowl and all this stuff going on, right? Michigan, Ohio State, there's so many different colleges playing these big rivalries right now. And when I had time between calls and in and out of the farm, I was watching some college football, holiday weekend, right? I think that what's going on there, we can relate to the deer hunting world part of this, right? But also the family part of it. I think what you're seeing with this big explosion of, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not the University of Michigan athletics fan. Is because this mentality has been going on, being from Michigan, has been going on for years and years and years and years with the coaching and the athletes part of that. Now, there's been some great athletes. I can think of a couple right off the top of my head that have come from there that don't fit this cloth, that have stayed out of this nonsense. Aiden Hutchinson's one for the Detroit Lions. If you're a Lions fan, there's a lot of these kids that were good. I think are good folks, right? Good people, come from good people. On the other hand, this display that was put on here, I think, is a direct connection on what we have going on in the hunting industry. So getting right to the point on this one is, Michigan going into the center of the field after their win and, spiking the flag on the center line or the middle of the field, and after that, Auburn got involved in some stuff, and the SEC had like 2 or 3 different colleges getting into fistfights on the field. Guys, here is my connection. There are so many eyes. There are so many eyes watching what we do as leaders, parents, I guess you could say, right? There's so many eyes. Players, I guess you could look at, someone that's got a business like I, and I'm not going to use the word professional because I don't like that word when we're talking about deer hunters, professional deer hunters. But when you start looking at all of the eyes that are in the crowd when all that nonsense is going on, right? Social media is full of all these young kids. All these adults are getting involved in it. All these arguments stemming from this. It takes the shine off college sports. This same nonsense is going on in the hunting industry right now. There's a huge connection with the drop in hunter numbers, and especially younger hunters coming into this. There's a huge connection with that same theory, because we're all a bunch. It's a male dominated sport. We're all a bunch of chest pumpers, if you will, at some point, and I'm just as guilty of it as anybody. But there's so many eyes on what we're doing, and when I see this, the good Lord is always in the back of my brain, just trying to help tune my brain in on how we can be better, how you can get past that nonsense because of all these eyes from this younger generation that are on you. And I think the older you get, the more important that is. I know it is for me. And I just see that as we can all do better, right? So after all of this, rivalries are great. I mean, that's what makes college sports, right? That's what makes, I'm not a professional sports or a fan at all, but that's what makes the rivalries, high school level, college level, what they are, right? There has to be that competitive nature, or the rivalry kind of takes a shine off. But I'm here to tell you right now, if I were on the field and I have done or did something in my high school career that even exceeded the disrespect that was shown this weekend on multiple different fields, my old man, that big old grizzly bear would have come out of them stands. My mother probably would have just left and never returned to the stadium. My father, that big old grizzly bear, would have come out of them darn stands, and even at 6'6" and being about 6 inches taller than him, I'm guarantee you that I probably would have been a foot off the ground. And if he would have threw me in the truck from across the parking lot, I probably would have been so embarrassed because of the way that he would have handled that, rightly so. I probably would have never come back on the field. That piece of the whole puzzle in the adult side of the world is gone, right? So the fear is not there anymore. So now we have a bunch of uncoachable kids are unemployable kids, right? We can do better. The kids can do better. We can do better as a whole. And I just tie that to this part of the segment today, guys, for that, because I think no matter if we're talking college football, we're talking deer hunting, we're talking businesses, we're talking, consulting businesses, we're talking hunting industry professionals, professional hunters, we can all be better. We can all be better. And it's something that I wish I had millions of dollars to just start this huge transformation of all of this, especially in the hunting industry, to just change this mindset, release a bunch of education out there and understanding of why that nonsense can't happen, right? So I just encourage you not to be the adult that's on, social media rambling and poking fights and just stirring the pot on all of this and saying that it was, not right that these kids got pepper sprayed. They're lucky that there wasn't lethal force taken on some of this and there wasn't guns drawn on some of these situations, because it was absolutely out of control. pepper spray. They should have dosed the whole damn field in pepper spray on a lot of these cases, both sides of the ball. And I'm not a Michigan fan. That's not a secret, but Michigan sports fan. But I'm just here to tell you the whole atmosphere, I think, is going to take a hit from that. I think you're going to see a lot of folks shy from that, just like we shied from professional sports. I know I did. With the whole kneeling during 2020, COVID and all this other nonsense that was going on. I just think that you take something great as far as college football in the fall and deer hunting, and we are destroying ourselves from the inside out. We're our worst enemy. So, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be able to control elections. We're a huge group, right? Control elections, get stuff done, get stuff passed, enjoy it, promote the family side of it, promote the education, promote the habitat, promote the health of the deer herds, all while promoting respect. It's just a huge part that I think is so simple that we're all guilty of, myself included. We're all guilty of making the situation worse, not better. So, in closing, that's my rant. But I don't know if any of you watch Joey Swoll, the professional bodybuilder. If you haven't, look him up on Facebook. The gym culture is part of this nonsense right now. He's a professional bodybuilder. These people are filming and talking crap about other people in the gym and all this nonsense that you see on social media. And he gets on there and tags these people, and it shows a video and just runs them up, down, one side or the other. And kudos to you, Joey, because that's what needs to happen. This whole situation just needs to get back to the fundamentals of life. And sadly, I think a lot of this is going downhill because of social media. And here I am, making a social media post. But we can be better. The whole meaning to this, guys, on the Dear Lord part of it, is he expects better from us, and we can do better, whether it's college football or the hunting industry, or just not maybe the industry as a whole, but a family hunting side of things, or deer hunting in general, right? We can all be better. So hopefully, guys, this one connects with you. Here's an update on what's been going on, and we will be doing some more of these. I know I've said we're going to have some guests scheduling. Folks are running all over the country deer hunting and family and holidays, but we've got a couple things. We've got a couple of them shot already, doing some editing, and got a couple guests that we're going to have, whether in camp here and or in the future, as far as phone calls or taped phone calls, conversations, stuff we're going to be doing that I think will help everybody going into the habitat season. So stick with us, guys. Hope everybody had a great holiday. If you're watching this or it advances on into the rest of December, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the holidays. Get out and enjoy the rest of the late season as far as deer hunting has to offer, guys. There's a lot of good time out there to be had. Maybe that target buck has eluded you, and he's just being tricky. The Orange Army. I'm a part of the Orange Army too. But the gun seasons came in, and these older bucks kind of just went into their own little hiding spot. Now they're going to get themselves into trouble with the feed, and there's a lot good second rut. Powerful piece. We're going to do a separate video on that coming up, and there's a lot of good left in the season. You have to have your mind right. You have to have your gear right if you're in a cold climate. And you gotta stick it out, because there's so much good yet to come. Just don't wash the season. If late season hunting is for you. Some folks it's not, right? So we're gonna be doing some videos on that coming up here, guys. Got a bunch of stuff to get accomplished here on the farm today, and some calls yet to do with some potential clients and some current clients today. and we're gonna move on here. And if anybody's got any questions about the habitat season coming up, we do have spots available. Reach out to me, and we will. I do a phone call with everybody before we even go down the road of booking. Talk about your goals, talk about how my program works, where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be there, and if you guys have any thoughts, questions, concerns, whatever the case is, reach out via text, email, or writing on social media, whatever the case is, guys. So look forward to chatting with you guys, and we've got more to come here, and I think we hit on all the topics. So we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks.